The other one that what I think you and I totally agree on is this idea of giving women too much attention up front. One of the things I really like is this concept of women are used to being hit on a regular basis, especially on these dating apps. I mean, it's like short-term sexual acts is what like a lot of guys are on there. There's 6 guys for every girl, I think, on some of these platforms, depending on what. Like, I believe in India, it's like 11 guys for every girl, something like that. And so, one of the things that I see is like men will give women attention or attraction. I just did a dating show recently where I was coaching this guy, and he comes up to her and he goes, "That's a pretty dress. You have a pretty name." That she was like Nicaraguan. It's like, "That's a pretty ethnicity, whatever." And I was like, she didn't do anything to earn that. She didn't do anything to earn that. And if you made her earn it, she would be far more likely to be more invested. Alan Roger Curry says, no free attention. Do you, and I've heard you talk about this before. What do you think when it comes to this concept?
Yeah. So I have a saying that anything that's given out easily is never respected, even if you think that it is. So that also includes your attention and validation towards women who haven't earned it yet. So if you find a woman attractive, you can validate her on things outside of her looks and obviously, pursue her, create conversation. But if you're just draining your attention to her and it's not reciprocated, especially, that's when you're pushing the boundary of that quote unquote simp zone. And that's what most simps do, is that they just give out free attention with nothing in return. So my strategy is the fact that I don't mind pursuing a woman. However, when it comes to a lot of my time and attention, especially the free attention, and she hasn't earned it yet, meaning that she hasn't made herself available, we haven't done bedroom fun, like whatever it may be,
Compliance.
then exactly. I'm limiting and reducing that up until we get to that point, and then that's when I'll reward her with more validation and attention, and for that reason, she'll respect it more.
Yeah, and I think a lot of guys get it confused when they're getting attention and they think they're getting compliance. Like, for instance, the big one is like getting nudes. Girls will get nudes from a guy and be like, "Oh, I'm getting compliance from him." I'm like, no, she sent those nudes to 30 other dudes. That's not compliance. Compliance is when she comes over to your house and gets nude. That's compliance. And a lot of guys don't understand there's a difference in validation. I had an argument with some photographers about this. They like every girl's photo that models that they like, and I was like, dude, this is a really bad game, just to let you know. It's fine if you just want to shoot them or whatever. And they're like, no, these girls want encouragement and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, I'll encourage them when they come over to my place. I don't need to encourage them on social media. I highly recommend, and I think you said something similar, if men would just absolutely stop giving women attention for non-contextualized sexual photos, meaning bikini, ass shots, anything like that. But if a woman pays off her house, like that motherfucker, like that photo. When a girl finishes her college degree, like that. When a girl pays off her car or rescues an animal, like that. If a girl has a baby or gets married, like that. But the bikini photos, the fact that you like those and leave the heart eyes, you're just lowering your value.
Yeah, anything from a sexual validation standpoint, and a lot of women try to bait for a guy's attention too. Obviously, a lot of women do it for financial reasons or for just pure vanity reasons. But if men could just control themselves on social media, I swear that might fix, to some marginal degree, the dating market as a whole. Because we know, like, a lot of women are more entitled for the reason that they just receive so much attention and validation. So for that reason, not only do they respect the man less that does that, but just men as a whole.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if you've ever heard Homath before, but he talks about this concept of women being stuck on their highest setting, meaning like once they fuck Drake one time, they're like ruined. They think that every guy they got to date from that point forward. And by the way, Austin, there's probably girls that have dated you and like their following partners don't match up. And so there's always this issue. Bilzerian has talked to me about this concept where like girls he used to date, their boyfriends have to go to therapy because of the concept of like, oh, you were willing to have an orgy with him, but like won't have a threesome with me, stuff like that would happen. Can you talk about this? Have you noticed this concept where it's like because of social media, now we have an average girl in Wichita who can get attention from movie stars and rappers, etc. Like every girl I know here in Las Vegas and Los Angeles, Tyga has slipped into their DMs. I'm talking every girl that I know that's even moderately attractive. And so when you see this concept, it's like, do you see this concept where they get stuck on their highest setting because they fucked a 10, they think they can marry a 9?
Yeah, so in practice, it's hard for me to say if that is true, because obviously I don't know what they think or what they do after they see me. But I would assume so, anecdotally, that would be the case, especially when I run some of these experiments. Some of these, attractive, mildly attractive girls who don't have a lot of status. Sometimes I'll do these Instagram experiments and I see Michael B. Jordan liking their pictures. I see Chris
Crazy,
Brown
yes.
liking their pictures, and so with the access to high status men, attractive men, celebrities, it has just made everything a lot more difficult because she's like, why would I go out on this coffee date with this random guy when
Yeah.
I had Michael B. Jordan or whoever inviting me to a party in the hills or inviting me this place, that place, and the more attractive they are, and I would say definitely the more status they have on social media, the worse that overall that mindset is.
Yeah.
If you can find a girl who, doesn't have a lot of experience,
Yeah.
she's still mildly attractive, doesn't have a lot of status or Instagram followers, maybe has a private account, then that's when you're in the territory of, okay, she might not be tainted by these other men and stuck on our high setting.
Yeah, it was. I met my girlfriend. She was 20. She's from Southwest Arkansas and didn't have an Instagram. And I was like, "Is this real? Is this possible?"
Perfect.
And she was a finalist at this bikini competition. I was like, "I'm keeping this one. I'm not letting this one go." But yeah, you did mention that, and some of the concepts of like when you think about like Michael B. Jordan or Drake or whoever, it's like consider that these guys have a roster of women, and it's never going to end. They're like not going to stop. Meaning these men at the top will just keep fucking these women forever. Like they're not going to stop. And so it does consistently make it a little harder for guys who are average. They're just like, hey, man, I can't compare. One of the things that I started doing is I stopped looking at women based on their physical attractiveness, and I started looking at them based on the level of stimulus they receive, like what you said before. So, for instance, if I take a 10 who lives in Des Moines and she grew up with her parents, she goes to church, and she's like studying to be a surgical nurse versus a girl who's a 6, but she gets flown out to Dubai. The girl who's a 6, even though she's less attractive, is going to be more difficult to deal with because of the level of stimulus that she receives and that she tries to receive. So rather as before, you used to think a girl who's more attractive is automatically going to get more stimulus. It's not always like that. And especially with FaceApp and Facetune, you see girls changing the way they look online. And so now a girl who's a 6 looks like a 10 online. She's getting attention, flown out to Dubai, flown out to Ibiza, etc. Or at least offers to go to dinner with guys for money, etc. And now you have a situation where it's like now you have a girl who's less attractive who actually is a harder person to date than the more attractive girl who received less stimulus.
Yeah, and that's a funny paradox too, because I'm thinking about some of the most attractive women I've ever been with were pretty easy to deal with.
Yes.
Versus, looking back at the times where I used to dabble into the average one, they were pretty difficult. A lot of them were. And me and my friends have talked about that quite a bit before. It's like, why are some of the most attractive women, are more compliant or just easier to deal with versus, the 6s, the 5s,
Isn't it funny?
very difficult. So it's very interesting, man.
It's really funny. I had Jeremy Miner on here. He's a sales coach. And I know Fit, he studies some Jeremy Miner stuff. And he said something I really loved. He's like, when I'm trying to coach these guys, it's like the most coachable people are the ones making $1 million a month. Whenever I talk to people who are making like $126,000 a year, they don't want to listen to anything I have to say. They think they know it all. And it's so funny because when I throw photo shoots or bikini competitions, it's this girl who has 3 million followers. She's like, yeah, I'm going to fly my way out there, pay for my own hotel room, and then I'm going to compete in your competition. Thank you so much. And then they show up on time and they're professional. And some girl with 2K followers who's like slightly overweight, she's like, are you going to pay for my flight? And I'm like, what the fuck? What are you talking about? Like these girls are showing up for free and you're like asking me to pay for their flight. So it does seem like that. Like the higher up you go with like more attractiveness and more professional the girls are, it seems like it's much easier to deal with them in business and with women.
Yeah, definitely with business too. I've noticed that also, but yeah, it's paradox. It's weird. I wonder why that is though.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a function of stimulus, but also like I talked to Kindly Meyer. She's one of my best friends, and she's she's a huge model out in Tennessee. And if you talk to every photographer she's ever shot with, same thing with Chloe Ture, some of these other models, or same thing with Caitlin Runk, they're super easy to work with. So because they are more professional, that's how they got bigger in their field. Where there's a lot of girls, they're just like lazy, no call, no show, that kind of thing. It is really weird paradox. The nicest, sweetest girls I've ever met are some of the prettiest ones, but they also have huge followings because they're willing to work. They're willing to take accountability.